Hi, my name is Enrico Guarino and I'm EMEA SAP Senior Solution Architect at Red Hat. Today, I'm going to show you how the combination of Red Hat Enterprise Linux for SAP solutions and Red Hat Ansible provides a complete platform for SAP workload that is highly automated, simplified dramatically the management of the SAP host. First of all, let's describe the use cases that it's all about managing security, policies, and patches for all the servers in SAP ecosystems, which they could be on-premise, public, private, and hybrid cloud, making sure that they are compliant with the SAP and Red Hat's recommendations through their entire life cycle. With that said, let's have a look at the high-level architecture. On the left side of the screen, we have the business drivers, which are full lifecycle management of the SAP landscape across on-premise, hybrid, and multi-cloud, keeping the SAP host consistent, up-to-date, and compliant with the latest recommendations, minimizing downtime, planned and unplanned, preventing potential issues before they happen by proactive detection and automatic remediation of them, detecting and remediating security threat. And on the right side, we have at the high level all the components that are present in the solution. So SAP S/4HANA and HANA database running on RHEL for SAP solutions, smart management and Ansible automation platform that are going to act or control SAP servers. And Red Hat Insight, which is a managed service that continuously analyzes the landscape to identify security and performance risk. Here we see the blueprint, which is a very high-level representation of the infrastructure and solution piece that is going to be part of this lab. We can see here how these components are connected. So satellite and Ansible automation platform are connected to both HANA database and SAP primary application server host. The infrastructure management satellites feeds metadata to Red Hat Insight that can evaluate and send back the appropriate recommendation. With this in mind, the agenda for today is to briefly explore Ansible automation platform and check existing inventory and running jobs. We will look at how satellite detect missing or outdated components in the servers and apply the right versions. Also, how Insight with its SAP specific rules can detect potential issues before they happen, and how this can be solved automatically with Ansible playbook before a failure occurs. So let's jump to Ansible automation platform. Here we are in the dashboard of Ansible automation platform. In the first tab in job page, we can see all the latest jobs that has been executed. Let's expand the first one. So we see in the details, this workflow is related to an end-to-end installation of SAP HANA and S/4HANA. So the first step is SAP repository, which means that here, what we did is to attach the correct repository to the host, configuring the storage according to the SAP best practice, installing the SAP host agents, going through all the pre-configuration before installing SAP itself. So we know that you should follow all the SAP notes manual pre-step before going to actual installations. And we are doing it automatically with Ansible. So SAP pre-configure, here we include all the configuration that are across all the SAP components. We have HANA pre-configure specific for HANA, NetWeaver that is related to NetWeaver or S/4HANA. And actually, after that, when we completed all the prerequisite, we actually go to the HANA deployment. So here we are installing HANA. And after that, we go to end-to-end installation of the S/4HANA, completely in an unplanned mode. So this workflow is able to give you the chance to install your S/4HANA system completely in attended mode. If we click here on inventory, we see the SAP hosts that are connected to this Ansible tower in this lab. So we created a group SAP, which include 2 SAP hosts, actually the HANA database and S4HANA. And when we click in one of these hosts, we see all the configuration variables that are needed when we run the playbook. For example, here we have all the variables related to the storage, that's are in line with the old SAP best practice. So when we have the path to our HANA installation and so on, the SAP subcar, the SID, and so on. So this is just to give you really briefly an overview of Ansible Tower. So now let's focus on Red Hat Satellite. This is the dashboard of Red Hat Satellite, and it's high customizable. From here, clicking on Manage, you can add or remove widget. Okay, right now, widget that we have activated are new host, Red Hat Insight, actions, and summary. We will see in second part of the lab. Latest errata that are all the security issues that have been found on the connected host, and we are going to focus on this part right now. So Satellite will give you a lot of information from the registered host. So we can browse to all host to check this information. We see that right now we are connected in HANA host and S4HANA host, and we see here a red alert. So actually, the satellite is telling us that there is a security issue. So on errata, we see the message security errata applicable. Basically, this host, they have some issues with some of the packages because there is a CV address for a particular package version. So this is a security problem that we need to solve. How to do this? Really simple. We go to content, errata, and from here we see all the extensive errata that applies to registered host. So if I click on applicable, we got 68 errata that all of them are applicable to our loss. So we can select 100 items per page and select all and apply all of them. Before doing that, let's have a look to one of them, the information that the satellite is giving to us. So let's click on the first one. So we see that for each errata, we have the related CV, the common vulnerability exposure, so a briefly description of the topic, all the description, the solution, really important, the link to accessredhat.com, so the link to the specific article. We have the hosts that are affected, the packages that are affected, the repository, and so on. So let's go back to the errata, and let's apply them. So again, select applicable. We got 68. We select 100 items per page, just to be sure to select all. Click on all, apply errata. Now what we receive is the list of all hosts that are affected. We have our HANA and our S4HANA host. Select both and click next. So now when we click on confirm, like click on is, so basically, as you can imagine, Satellite is going to trigger an update in our host for all affected packages. Of course, this is a lab environment, just to show you how you could do very easy from Satellite to manage your VUL landscape. Normally, you can define a different strategy for a different group of hosts like dev, Q&A, pre-prod, production. So normally you should apply this errata starting from dev to validate everything, check the destruction on each errata. As may be for some of them, the reboot could be required depending on the affected package. This is just an example. So based on that information, you can define different strategy. For example, in HCA environment, high availability environment, you can apply the data first on the first node and after on the second node. Things like that will guarantee the availability of the SAP application that is not impacted at all. And this is very, very easy to configure from satellite. So now that the job has been completed, let's check on the RHEL host, the upgraded package by the RITA. And to that, we will log in via SSH to any of the hosts where the data has been applied. So let's jump to the terminal. Let's write yum history to validate these changes. Oh, sorry, history to validate these changes. So we can see the history of the latest job that is installed and updated some packages. So in this case, we have the latest job with the ID number 10. So let's type yum history info and the ID of the particular job, in this case 10. And we will see all the details about all the packages that have been upgraded from yum. So if we go back now on satellite, we go back to on satellite, and we go again to content errata. As you can see, all the existing errata have been applied. So the errata information is empty now. So now let's focus on Red Hat Insight. Let me log in on cloud, redhat.com, and select SAP system. So Red Hat Insight is a proactive remediation tool. It's a managed service, and it's included in all the RHEL subscription. So Insight proactively identify and remediate security, compliance, and configuration risk in the Red Hat Enterprise Linux environment. Insight information can be shown both in satellite for the registered host and on cloudredhat.com, as we are showing right now, as part of the software as a service product running the cloud. In this workshop, we are going to focus on satellite, where we will use the automated remediation with Ansible playbook to address some of the existing actions that apply to our system. Before doing that, let's have a look also to some area of Insight. For example, we applied 2 minutes ago all the errata related to the CVE. We can have the exactly same information from here. This is updated, and this is in line with what we have seen with satellite. If we go back instead on the recommendation, here we see all the recommendations that are strictly related to SAP. For each recommendation, we have a category that could be stability, availability, performance, security, and so on. So now let's focus on satellite. Let's go again to a dashboard. As we said before, we configured 2 widgets related to Insight in our dashboard. One is related to the action, and the satellite is telling us that we have 5 actions related to the availability category, 2 stability, 2 performance, and 0 security. And what about the risk summary? We don't have critical and low level risk level, but we have some medium and some high. So let's have a look more in detail. So we can go to Insight Actions. So we have several preferred topics. So topics include all the rules that are specific for a workload. We have a specific topic for SAP. So let's select SAP, view more. And this will show you all the existing SAP rules that can be applied to our registered host. It's important to highlight that this is not the same as the RETA. RETA is about security, vulnerability, or packages that must be updated because there is a CV related. So this means that there is a problem already in your system that someone could exploit using the vulnerability extensed in your packages. Instead, what we receive here is a proactive monitoring. So we receive insight to proactively configure our system to run accordingly to the SAP and Red Hat best practice. So it's a way to avoid future issues. For example, maybe right now we are not experiencing any performance issues. For example, just talking about kernel parameters related to max open-ended files, max memory that a process can consume. Maybe you are not exceeding those limits right now because you have a small workload. But if the workload will increase, you will hit those limits and you will get a performance issue. And this is exactly the use cases that we are going to show right now. And that's why we call it proactive monitoring, because it's going to tell you there is something you should review, because maybe in the future you could face this issue if you don't solve it. So from here, we see all the actions that they are recommend for you to apply. For each recommendation, Insight tell us how critical it is, what's the impact, what's the risk, how many systems are affected, and the most important thing, if Insight is able to generate an Ansible playbook to auto-remediate the issue. So let's select the first one. SAP instance failures occur when the value for some resource limits are below the SAP recommendation values. This is about the kernel parameters that we discussed before. So we have the list of all systems that are impacted. These are in our lab. So in this case, I'm going to select our HANA host and click on actions. When we click on actions, mainly we have two choices. One is create a new plan which include the playbook. And the second one is add this playbook to an existing plan. Fix that you want to create one plan that is able to auto-remediate several actions. You can create one plan and add all the others in all the other playbook in that plan. So right now I'm going to select the first one and giving a name. So fix HANA LG for M for all limits. Select the system, of course, and click Save. Okay, what Satellite is telling us here is giving us a new information that when we are going to update the resource limits, these new values are loaded in the system after the reboot of the system. So we need to perform the reboot in order to activate the changes. So Satellite is giving us two options. One option is say, okay, I'm going to apply the new resource limits and you will manually reboot your system in the second step. Or if you want, I can reboot for you the system. We will go to the first choice, and click on Save. So as you can see, the plan has been created. We have the details about the playbook, the systems, the actions, and so on. When we click on a system, we receive much more information. In this case, we receive information about the detected issue. So Satellite is telling us that the resource limits of this specific host, the HANA, are not in line with the SAP best practice. These are the configurations that have been discovered, and we can have a look also to operating system. And we should update the correct parameter in this file. So let's copy this file and go to SSH again. So as you can see here, we have exactly the same value that we have here. So satellite is telling us that we should change this value from 32K800 to 104K because this is in line with the SAP best practice. And if we click on show more info, we receive the SAP notes about this information. So I'm opening it. And as you can see here, I'm on SAP Launchpad, where there is the solution about all the recommendation, and this is exactly the value that we should put in our system. So the system was not in line with the SAP best practice, and the satellite with Insight was able to discover it and is telling us that you should change to avoid performance issue in the future. So let's close and let's run the playbook. Okay, so now satellite is going to run the playbook in background. We should wait a few seconds. It's really fast to apply the changes, but satellites needs that some information will bring back to satellite in order to be sure that all the action have been correctly performed. So we need to wait. Let's go on SSH and let's understand if the changes is already made. So as you can see, now we have new values. These are the values in line with the SAP best practice that are different for the previous values. Of course, as we haven't selected to reboot the system, so the system is still up and running. So let's go to satellite. It's still, the job is still running for satellite. We should wait some few seconds in order that satellite is able to understand that all changes have been performed. So meanwhile, we can also have a look. Okay, we have 100%. So we have also the green light from satellite, and also we checked that all the changes at operating system. So now, if we go again, so to the dashboard and inside actions, have a look to the SAP topic, and open again the same rule. SAP instance failure occur when the value for some resource limits are below the SAP recommendation values. As you can see, we don't have anymore the HANA system that we applied. This is the host name, HANA LG4M4. It's not anymore in the list. So we fix this performance issue that can happen to our system. So let's back to our slide. To recap, as you have seen, we provide the unified and complementary platform for SAP workload, starting from the right, Red Hat Insight, which is a single consistent tool for analyzing Red Hat Enterprise Linux, running across both hybrid cloud and on-premise infrastructure. It assesses the Red Hat Enterprise Linux environment to proactively identify and remediate threats, avoiding outage, unplanned downtime, and risk, and compliance. It helps you as a customer benefit from the Red Hat experience and the technical knowledge. On the operation level, Satellite is a scalable platform to manage patching, provisioning, subscription management of the Red Hat infrastructure. Like the SAP Solution Manager on the SAP level, Satellite has many additional capabilities, such as configuration management, automation through integration with Ansible Automation Platform, integration with Red Hat Insight for predictive analysis and security compliance. So smart management combines the capability of satellite with the simplicity of the management from the cloud. And of course, Red Hat Enterprise Linux for SAP solutions provides the capabilities and tools needed to operate a high-performing and stable environment for the SAP landscape. And last but not least, regarding the automation, as we have the SAP landscape management, the Llama from SAP part related to automation, we provide Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, which offers a foundation for building and operating automation across the whole organization. It includes all the tools for the SAP basis infrastructure administrations need to implement enterprise automation. And with that said, hope you enjoyed the lab. Please feel free to contact me to have a deep discussion about the topic we presented today. My contacts are in the chat. Thank you.